This reconsideration is based on evidence that was omitted and documents that were altered by the FDIC to remove my sexual harassment and hostile environment claims. They even threatened if I did not remove the sexual harassment claims that they would take away my VA status so that I couldn't apply for other government jobs with my VA status. Please listen to these events and explanations of evidence I have submitted. Dear Godma, ancestors, administrative judge, EEOC compliance officer, FDIC employees, and whoever else cares. I can only think I was not given a fair appeal because it has taken me 6 years to be heard. Your 8-hour days, maybe perhaps your workload, you don't have the time to read my claims, complaints, or cries for help. So, to make your job easier, I have recreated this audio and provided supplemented documents to follow. This audio can be listened to in your car as you sit in traffic, on the train, and the plane, while you sleep in bed, wherever you are. Please, whatever you have to do to hear me, let me be clear. On January 6, 2016, I sent an email to Donald Ballard, an OMWI officer of Minority and Women Inclusion, an FDIC employee, complaining of sexual harassment. He responded in the email, so it's mostly Dan sexually harassing you. And I reached out to help from him because as a result of my cries to my managers, Lavore Richmond and Don Singer, they were taken as jokes or a cry from a crazy person. I thought the harassment was my fault because I did not set boundaries. Although I have documented evidence that I complained to my former supervisor, Peter Neville, that Dan Hotz and Don Scaff sneak up behind me and it makes me uncomfortable. I only included Don Scaff so that Dan would not feel singled out. When Dawn would stand behind me, her presence did not feel as triggering as Dan Hotz. Peter Neville spoke with them, and for a while they stopped. You will see in September 2015, I started taking more R&R leave to keep myself from having a mental breakdown. I learned this from my deployment, so when I was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, we would go on R&R, and that always got me back to a good space. But there was still some things I was working through. Why was I having these crying spells? Where were these emotions coming from? And were the medications I was given affecting me back then? Or was it what I was experiencing was what I experienced in the military, like being raped and having detainees threaten that they would come and find me? Was it all those thoughts coming back to haunt my thoughts? So until I sorted this out, I did not want to blame Dan or anyone else for what I now know were triggering interactions. Once I was able to make sense of what was triggering me, I remember calling Dawn Singer into the nurse's office in October 2015, and I told her of the problems I was having and requested time off and to work from home. She told me I would have to provide medical documentation to Lavore. You will also see in evidence I submitted, she told me her neighbor and Tom Twilliger, my former director, before they fired him from what I was also told he was fired for having mental issues. She told me I would have to submit these documents to Lavore and that she understood. I also told Lavore that I'm triggered by these various things. The construction noises sounding like gunshots, or like the garage not being secured, like I could walk into any part of the garage and not need my ID card. And this was a problem for me because strangers were coming up to my desk, and you can even ask some of the print shop people, there were flowers delivered to the FDIC for me, and they didn't know who they were delivered from. So those type of things made me feel unsafe, and that Dan Hotz was always prying into my privacy and making me feel uncomfortable. And Petra Nelson and Don Scaff were gossiping about me, not knowing what I was going through. Judy Long, Dan Hotz, Don Scaff, Petra Nelson, LaVore Richmond all thought they knew what was best for my health and tried to force me to attend a mental health facility, which I applied for, but it was too costly. And I knew what was best for me. I knew what I went through, and I knew I needed to change an environment and to become more assertive in speaking up for myself about what I needed to function. So again and again, I asked for my cubicle to be moved and to work from home. You will see that they allowed a white woman, training tech, same position, Peggy Jagger, her name, to work from Florida. Meanwhile, we're in DC. She was able to work from Florida until she retired. These are examples of discrimination I submitted. Susanna Susser, you allowed this. You will see they alter my job description and training technician description to cover up their discrimination against me when they were investigated. They changed documents. My former director, Don Singer, and LaVore Richmond, staged an interrogation about my sick leave, and I was already in a fragile condition. So I brought my husband for support, and they denied him access to the room. They also did not give me the correct contact number to have my union representative show up. She was rushed down at the last minute. In the interrogation by Adam B. and Elizabeth, you'll see their names in the interrogation report. I can't get their last names right now. They were shown my medical documents, which is a HIPAA violation. I gave these documents to LaVore, and they accused me of being in Belize. In the interrogation, you will see them accusing me of being in Belize and misusing my leave that I was given. I said, who told you I was in Belize? Because I never went to Belize. I only posted it on my Facebook page to have proof that Dan Hotz was stalking my Facebook after I told him to stay away from my personal life and my private life, and I was just tired of it. I yelled and I cried, but would you believe they later lied and said I climbed across a huge conference table and threatened LaVore in their statements, their written statements. There's evidence of this. And they blocked my access to the building, and the union rep called me and told me I should just call and apologize. Even after this and my letter of explanation of how I used my leave, they made Dan Hotz my team lead and LaVore my supervisor to further team up and bully me. Dan Hotz would be one way in front of LaVore and then another way when he would see me alone. He would act like he's my boss in front of LaVore and then be another way when he's alone with me. I had enough, so I started recording and taking screenshots of everything, most of what the agency tried to get rid of. On December 28th, Dan Hotz was in the office and he was supposed to be on leave. I was on one of the few teleworking. He took the opposite way to leave the elevator to come by my desk, as he often did, not having any reason to come by my desk but to look at me. How can I prove this type of behavior to get my desk moved in evidence? So I emailed him asking him to go over to get the documents that he told LaVore was so urgent that I go over with him. You will see he did not respond in the email but an instant message saying that he left the documents at home but still needed to meet with me about some other files. I screenshot the message recording so that you could see that he's calling a meeting saying stuff like, I shouldn't stand so far away. I was standing on one side of the table, he was standing on the opposite side of the table, saying that I should come and stand on the side of the table closer to him. I stood opposite of the table because I did not want him to touch me. Dan Hotz has found a way to sexually harass without getting caught. By making his meetings seem innocent, he said he likes the way I smell, asking me like how my holiday was going, nothing to do with files on the table, which later he told me could be just filed away. He could have just sent that to me in an email. These are the things I shared with Lears. He likes my hair up because it accentuates my neck. Like, Lears is labor-employee relations. And when I complained with Don Singer and Susanna about sexual harassment in February 2015 in the email, I also CC others like Gloria Parrish. Still, in February, after my complaint to Susanna and Don Singer, my cubicle still was not moved. Lavore sent an email and he CC'd Don Singer and Adam that they would not move my cubicle even after Anita assured me in October 2015 my accommodation request approval that my desk would be moved. Rather than helping me get away from those triggering me, they made it so that I would have to suffer being around them more. I don't know why they wanted to break me, but Susanna orchestrated much of the delay in my recovery. She could have stepped in and talked to me. She could have stopped her staff, but she further instigated it, and for that, I cannot let her retire in peace. I've missed out on my retirement, which I would have accumulated, all of my financial losses. The emotional damage has caused my relationships. Being able to love again is hard when you cannot trust anyone. Help me to love again. Help me to trust again. Show me that the EEOC can be trusted to do what it was designed by legislation to do. And share it in the video so that you can listen. If you don't have the time to read, please listen. I am trying to give the EEOC and FDIC another opportunity to make this right before involving other organizations. This is the altered document. You can see that they have changed my claims and only submitted one claim and changed the signature on my letter, which leaves out my previous claim. Susanna and Don Singer, as I mentioned before, demanded that I drop the sexual harassment claims or they would take away my VA status. More retaliation and interfering with my journey. This is an email from a recording an FDIC employee sent me, which reads, "People said, I see why you named her BBB. BBB meaning baddest body in the building. This is just guy stuff," he joked. And I endured this type of treatment for years until strangers started coming to my desk and my co-workers who I work with started interrupting my work just to come look at me or comment on my appearance. It didn't bother me at first, and when I would go to the lunch to go get lunch in the cafeteria, or those things didn't really bother me. It was mostly just at my desk when I'm trying to work my workspace, meeting rooms. It was getting out of control, and I needed help setting boundaries and to take back control of my environment. These are messages from Dan, which I showed Lears as to the inappropriate nature of the relationship he was trying to have with me, despite countless reinforcement that I did not want him in my personal space or my personal life, but just as a friend at work. Here is another message for you to set a visual of how he was in person. Here I have put an out of office reply. I am on leave, and he ignores it and messages me anyway. This is how he was in person. This is how he was if I hid in the training tech room to get away from him, and he would force himself into the room that's only for training techs and come harassing me in there. He was the only BETS, bank examiner training specialist, who we worked with, training techs worked with, and with a code, and no other BETS had code or access to the room, and they never came in there. I did not want to get Dan in trouble. I did not want to have this conflict with him, but no one would listen to me. No one listened to my quiet way of trying to get away from him. Even more, you'll see the messages he sent me about the jacuzzi and coming to use the jacuzzi in his room and trying to pressure me and pressing me to come into his room. And when I thought about it, why was he asking me and not Joan, who was also with us on our business exam or business trips? I really loved my job. I loved the position that I had created of being able to go around and see how the different bank examinations were done. I was excited to do it, and then Dan took on, I'm the one who suggested it, and then Dan involved himself so that he can also Okay, I'm getting too emotional, so let me slow down. Even more, DR decided he also wanted to come all the way from one side of the building all the way to my desk for an inappropriate hug. Even hugging sideways was a problem for me, but I was forced to hug him the way he wanted, pelvis to pelvis. These are just some of the things I asked for help to get away from, and they tried to cover up by assassinating my character and reputation. This, I cannot let them retire in peace until I am given justice. You will see Lavore Richmond and Don Singer both ignore my request for leave without pay because I didn't need the money. I asked for leave without pay to pull myself together. They insisted I take sick leave and take as much time as I needed. I don't know if it was just for them to get access to my medical records to humiliate me, but I asked to go on a retreat, and I was given that encouragement by my therapist. If I did not get into the program, I was told that I could still use the leave, and I did. They were both aware I was researching programs which would not force me to take medication, but find the root of what my issues were and solve them one by one. You will see I was attending group therapy and a program at the VA, and my doctor recommended R&R. I went to what was recommended to me as the best form of healing naturally, and it was not anyone's business, but they made themselves part, and I think mostly on their own projections of how they misused their leave or abused telework. My leave did not warrant an investigation, but Susanna and Don's compassion to listen the way they listen to others, they just discriminated and didn't hear me the way that they heard Peggy Jagger when she asked to telework without having to go through what I went through. The discrimination went beyond sharing my medical documents, but even they handled my request to telework from home, or it was all exaggerated to penalize me for my sick leave, threatening to fire me when they would not fire themselves or their friends for taking a sick day or sick days to pull themselves together. I deserved that. This management is just incompetent and corrupted. Susanna hurt a lot of people to get to her position, lying and forging documents, and that I cannot let her retire in peace or anyone else who got in the way of my peace and justice. My journey was interrupted. I earned a master's degree to help me with my career in government. I was on my way to shadowing another department. I had a retirement plan. I had plans for my future. I wanted to be a scuba diver instructor. I had a retirement home in Texas. Like, I really had my life planned out. I was going to have a bed and breakfast and be, I even created an indoor playground for parents who work from home, and just my plans were just interrupted because I was not given the time I needed to pull myself together, to learn how to manage my health and work life. Now, it has taken me 6 years to get back to an okay place, but I still cry when I see them continuing to cover up their wrongdoings. I deserve to be compensated so that I can continue on with my journey in peace. And as I stated, the only compensation that would make me feel justice is to take away from them what they took from me, my plans, my visions for my future, and to be compensated from their retirement plans and their career and salaries that they were working so hard to cover, to save, to forge documents, and they try so hard to keep their retirement. That is what I deserve. My daughter is sitting here listening to me in this recording, and I'm having to say it over and over again without crying. I am trying to teach her not to keep your emotions in check, and not all white people are racist, and not all men are predators, and not all government is bad. The government can be good, but please help me to show her that violence is not the answer, and your voice and the truth should be enough. That is what I'm asking for.